I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the conversation with Al McFarlane. Today is Wednesday, August 17th, 2022. And today, as I mentioned yesterday, is the birthday of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And I'm looking at a post on the Africana website that's called Narrative, the social media program called Narrative, narrative.com. It's a item posted, a petition posted by Karen Hunter, Dr. Karen Hunter, who is a professor of journalism and communications at Hunter College in New York, and also a celebrity radio personality on a national level. She and Dr. Greg Carr and others have created a project called Narrative. And Narrative is an online community that intends to create unfiltered, unfettered connection between us, between our people, so that we can discover ways to know each other, be with each other without interpretation or interruption. Well, today, the Narrative family and the world is celebrating the birthday of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs to begin with about who he was and why I'm going to invite you to join me and others in a petition asking our government to pardon him, to free him. Marcus Mosiah Garvey inspired every major Black movement of the 20th century. He fought for the liberation of his people. And so now it's time for us to fight for him. Clear his name. Free Marcus Garvey now. Marcus Garvey galvanized a movement of millions spanning the globe. For his efforts, he was the target of the United States government. In 1923, Garvey was arrested and charged with mail fraud. It's widely known to be trumped up charges, but those charges led to a conviction and a 5-year jail sentence. In 1925, a petition was circulated to free Garvey. It got 70,000 signatures, which was enough to pressure President Calvin Coolidge to commute Garvey's sentence. Coolidge added deportation as a stipulation. Garvey returned to Jamaica, but his name was forever tarnished. Well, now we're saying that we have the opportunity to help clear his name. That today you have the opportunity. So we're asking people to sign a petition that asks President Joe Biden to posthumously pardon Marcus Garvey. And parenthetically, the previous president cleared the name of Jack Johnson, the boxer, before he left office. So if he could do that, President Biden must and can and must do the same thing for Marcus Garvey. So go online and find the petition for Marcus Garvey. I'll put it in the chat. As a matter of fact, it's being pushed by change.org. I'm going to copy it now and paste it into the chat. And if you are so moved, we'd love for you to join this effort and to sign the petition asking for the pardon of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. That means so much to me because, as I said before, I'm a Jamaican, a Cuban Jamaican. And I think that Marcus grew up in the same neighborhood that my grandfather grew up in. I can't imagine that my grandfather did not know his family. I don't know that that's the case, but small towns such as they are, people know each other in small communities, and somehow I feel connected. So much so that when I bought, as I mentioned yesterday, the property that my office is in North Minneapolis, I renamed it to the Marcus Garvey House. Insight News, McFarlane Media, headquarters, Minneapolis, Minnesota, our address, the Marcus Garvey House in North Minneapolis. And the feeling is right, the spirit is right, the intent is to elevate, to explain, and to walk in the power of the vision, the words that resonate most with me, that stay in my mind and my heart. Garvey, in his speech, said, "Up, you mighty people, you can become what you will." So he asked us to take our place in and among the fraternity is not the right word, but among the community of human beings, and that we walk in a way that's dignified and with confidence, cultural confidence that invites the world to understand that our lives matter, our presence is significant, our contributions have been great, and greater still will they be. So support, learn, and sign the petition. Free Marcus Garvey. Let me begin by bringing in one of my several guests today. And I'm going to kind of ask him to hang out with me for most of the program. It's a person I just met, but I've known a long time in my mind and in my heart. And that's Brother Alvin B. King. He's the host of a program on the same channel I'm with the Black Press USA, the Black Press of America. His program is called He Said, He Said, He Said. And I'm aware of him through the program, but also because of our shared connection to the producer of this program, Brother Vash Bodhi. Brother King, good afternoon. Welcome to the conversation. How you doing, man?
Oh, Brother Al, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm glad to be here. And thank you for that information or history on Mr. Garvey. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to do my homework to see what else I can find. And I will sign your petition.
Excellent. Wonderful. Wonderful. Talk about your program. He said, he said, he said, powerful program, powerful idea, and the right time, the right place. Tell us about it.
Well, thank you so much, like I said, for having me here. He said, he said, he said was, I would like to say that it was something that was birthed out of, when COVID hit, but it wasn't. I have come from a small background of being on a talk show that used to be on another format called We Speak for about 6 years. And when I ended that in 2019, I really had this vision of creating a show that would feature something that I had never seen on TV. And that was 3 Black openly gay men hosting a show, a talk show that, I felt could be current, tasteful and edgy, resourceful and fresh, and that it would showcase the LGBTQIA community in a positive light. And so I was able to do that, and by creating He Said, He Said, He Said, that we could give to our community and others.
And so the importance, I think what you're doing is critically important. It's timely. You are putting into the information atmosphere an ability to talk to each other in ways that we have either been afraid to, or been encouraged not to, or been discouraged. You're saying, look, let's look at each other and let's talk to each other. And you are enriching, I think, the information environment by the courage with which you bring these conversations, these points of view into what I call the public mind. What do you think about that? Am I on target in describing that?
Well, yeah, I think you're very much on target. I mean, the way the show is formatted and it has developed over time, we like to talk about topics that are really, really impacting our community. And one of those topics, and if you don't mind, today I thought I'd bring a couple of clips from some of the previous shows to share with everyone. But one of the things that's really near and dear to my heart is male trauma. I mean, we take mental health very seriously in our community and overall. So for a few of our shows, we have invited a young woman by the name of Dr. Deborah Warner. And we got her perspective on male trauma because she is a subject matter expert. And if you don't mind, I'd like to share a clip from Dr. Warner.
Sure.
What do you mean by breaking the silence?
Letting men speak, hearing them. That is the thing. It's because men will go underground. Men will not talk about this because it's taboo. No one wants to hear that a man was sexually abused by another man or by a woman. They're like, oh, that didn't happen. Those are just boys being boys. Or didn't you just get broken in early by a woman? These are the things you hear, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that a boy who's been beaten his whole life, and maybe no sexual abuse happened, but abuse happened. And they think, oh, nothing happened to you. Why didn't you learn to fight, right? Because you don't understand the trauma cycle. You don't understand the abuse cycle. They can't, or they don't know how. If you've never been taught anything different, why would you do anything different?
Mm-hmm. Right. So I guess the question becomes, why do we need to talk about it?
So it stops. That's how you break it. You talk, it stops.
Yeah, it's powerful. That's really good. Talk about build on that.
Well, again, first of all, I come from a very dysfunctional family. Born and raised in DC. I come from a family of 5 boys and 1 girl. My father was physically abusive to my mom, and so the trauma that have been instilled in me, that I've had to work my 63 years of trying to understand and maintain, it has come from the trauma that I've experienced. And so I always look at situations like this, that if I'm experiencing it, then someone else is too. So this is our opportunity I'm going to say for Vash and I to share this resource with our community.
What's been the reception so far? Is there a general embrace and appreciation of the points of view, the conversation, or is there still resistance, hesitation in our community and in the community at large?
Oh no, we have gotten so much positive feedback from our community and our viewers. Our show also offers a format where our viewers can talk to us. If whoever we have on the show, they can ask us questions or ask the guest questions, and the response has just been absolutely amazing, Al. And more so than none, we're now at a place where people are calling us to ask us, can they come on the show to talk about, if they have a book or if they have a specialty in the field of mental health, can they come on? And we have had other guests on the show as well.
What do you see going forward? What's kind of the end game? How must and should society, humanity evolve in a way that we all recognize every other human being for her or his value, their value as a human being, and where that capacity to see each other deeply, clearly, respectfully is also reflective of a capacity to understand the environment differently, the resources, to create a process that is not extractive in terms of how we exploit both the planet and each other, but rather create a system of knowledge creation or knowledge exploration, knowledge growth and sharing that is different from where we are now. What do you think?
Well, my first thought is I wish I had the power to just grab the whole world and shake it, and infuse it with a thought that people should be more open-minded to other people's or a person's view of things. And that goes back to putting this show together. I wanted to create a show where it was open, where we didn't judge anybody for whatever comments or whatever their points of views are. The world that we live in right now, Al, if I'm following what you just said, it is wow, I thought it was bad growing up in the 60s and 70s as a Black gay man and being a threat because, in my case, I don't look like the stereotypical, I'm going to say, Black gay male that a lot of people seem to talk about. Mm-hmm. So I've had my fight with that. So I've had to educate people in that area. So I thought it was bad then. But now, the world that we live in right now, it is really scary. Everybody wants to settle a difference or a grievance with, with what do you call it? With hurting people, with shooting people, and I don't know. I can't explain it. I wish I could.
Let me have you hold the thought. I'm going to bring another friend of mine in. I'd ask Kathy McLear, who heads AARP Minnesota, and my friend Jonathan Palmer, who was one of my regular guests on the program that we do Thursdays, to stand by. They're doing a special project. So this is kind of how I do this. I mix it up, and it all comes out meaning something of value to everybody. Bring in Kathy McLear and Jonathan Palmer. They're over in St. Paul at the Hallie Q. Brown Community Center, where Jonathan is the executive director. And Kathy, we met yesterday. She was announcing that the AARP was launching today at this time, its new fitness park. Kathy, Jonathan, how are you both? No, I don't have audio. Here we go.
organized by FitLab. Then I have Jonathan Palmer with me from Hallie Q Brown. We're having a little hard time hearing you, so I think we'll just talk for a minute, and feel free to wave your hand if you need to interrupt.
Do that. That's right.
This has been a long time coming, and as we spoke to Al yesterday, this is part of AUP's 60th anniversary. We put an outdoor fitness park in every single state, and we chose right here in St. Paul, Marshall and McCubbin, in coordination with the Hallie Q Brown Center for this particular fitness park in Minnesota. And so you heard from me yesterday, so I'm going to let you talk with Jonathan about why this is such an important offering to have right here in the community.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hello, Al. Good to see you again, and it's wonderful to be here. This is a tremendous asset for the community right here in the heart of the Rondo neighborhood. We're extremely glad to have this as one of the 15 across the U.S.
53.
53. We have 53 already. I'm sorry, I thought 15 was
one in every state.
One in every state. 53 across the United States. But right here at the center, this is a tremendous asset for us. It's going to go a long way to helping make sure our seniors stay healthy. As you know, during the pandemic, we stayed open, and that was one of our primary concerns.
Can you look? Yeah, Kathy, do some shots of the park. If you can show us the park.
Oh, the park?
Yeah, show it to us.
Yeah, well, this is the center itself. So we've got.
I'll talk while they're showing it. I can tell that what comes to mind, the first impression I get.
So it's accessible.
Oh, go ahead. It's like a kid's playground, but for adults. So my first impression when I see that kind of plaza or tented area, I think of a kid's gymnasium or jungle gym at grade school. But this is serious business for grown people, it seems to me, and that's really wonderful to see it there. Brenda, what are you thinking? Brenda Lyle, my colleague and co-host here.
It brings back memories of DA homes.
It reminds you of our grade school, right?
Those dangerous equipment that if you hit yourself, you were done.
Jonathan and Kathy, we're not able to hear you quite well, but we see this. And I want to take just a second to tell you thank you for taking the time to show this. And
that's so great.
We want to celebrate and lift you up and tell our community this is what it's about. This is collaboration. It's taking care of those of us who are aging and ensuring that we can do that with a degree of vigor, vitality, and companionship with each other. So
we don't know anything about that, Al. Not at 75.
Well, we know where to go, right?
We know where to go.
Kathy and Jonathan, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll see you later. Thanks so much. Okay.
Yeah,
Right, thank you
for having us.
All right. Alvin, thanks,
That's
man,
so
for hanging
great.
out. That's kind of what we do and how we do it, just connecting. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I'm all about empowering my seniors, and to see something like that. I mean, first of all, I think I want to get them on the show too. But no, we're starting a series actually on the 26th of August on aging while Black. Mm-hmm. And we're going to start first of all with a panel of men over 50, but we're also going to extend it as we go on to the women, and we might even talk to a younger group of people just to get their perspectives on what it's like for them to age in this world that we're living in right now. But that will be on August the 26th. But I thought that was fantastic. That's a nice gym.
Yeah, it was very nice, very nice. So let me go back to I'm going to push a little bit further on the discussion I was having with you before.
Okay.
Because I think that I want to first of all applaud you for just being a great human being, but also a courageous one. And I think it takes courage to speak your truth and to walk in your truth and to do that particularly in an environment that has been and remains in so many ways hostile and disapproving and misguided and willing to be dismissive of your or my humanity on any number of levels, one of them being gender and identity. And so for you to organize this public information initiative, which claims and acts out of a sense of responsibility to tell the truth to us and to the world. I think it's a powerful thing. So where does it go is the question. And I often talk to some of our guests about this whole question of our system of patriarchy, the system of power, the system where, and I'm reflecting some reading that I've been doing. Brenda's probably tired of me here saying this all the time, but but my favorite author now talks about an examination of systems that allow, you mentioned it, violence and the hoarding of power by the few to be lorded over the many. The minority hoard power, wealth, extract the resources, and keep the majority of the population in a situation which is destitute. And so how do we get past that? I don't know if that description fits your analysis of how the world exists, but that analysis for me says we need to change from a system of hierarchy that places one human being over the other and towards a system that values equally every human being. That's where I'm going with it. So how does that sound to you?
Well, from what I think you just said and what I took away from it, first of all, let me just say that silence is acknowledgement. And if you have the power to do something, you cannot sit back and watch something happening and you not do something about it. Mm-hmm. And I think it needs to start there. And if I didn't learn anything from the killing of George Floyd and the killing of Breonna Taylor, you have to open your mouth. You have to say something. You can't just keep saying, oh, this happened and that happened, and you don't do anything about it. And when it comes to power, I'm just going to say there are thousands, and I'm going to say thousands of very educated and very there's a lot of wealthy LGBTQI people in the community, and they have the power to make the change, but you've got to open your mouth and make the change happen. And I know that is happening. It may not be happening as fast or as much as we see, but that's where I think it has to start out. You have to say something, you have to do something. You can't sit idly by and not do it. And that's what I'm hoping that I'm doing with this show. I'm getting as much of the word out about topics and things and situations that will broaden people's perspectives and have them look at things in a different way.
Listen, I want you to hang out with me the rest of the hour if you can. I've got some more guests here, and a topic that you and I are both concerned about, and that is supporting, elevating, advancing teachers and their work. So a group called the Advancing Equity Coalition is honoring up to 6 teachers, and we have several of them here with us. Kelsey Oakes is here, Ruth Ann Martin is here, Haley Peterson is here. I think that's the group. And they are celebrated as all-star teachers. So yeah, thank you for applauding them. Let me read all of their names that we're posting the Advancing Equity Coalition website here. But Scott Teaglin at Lucy Laney School teaches 3rd grade. Sarah Van Oy teaches at Las Estrellas. She teaches 4th grade. Ruth Ann Martin teaches right here in this neighborhood at Nellie Stone Johnson, teaching kindergarten. Haley Peterson, Lucy Laney, 2nd grade. Shonda Cobbin, Lucy Laney, also 3rd grade. And finally, Kelsey is here, and Kelsey teaches at Lucy Laney as well. Congratulations, you guys. Bring them all on, and let's ask them to talk about what it means. And congratulations. Who wants to go first, Kelsey or Ruth Ann or Haley?
I don't know, not it.
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. Really honored to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Is my audio okay? It's a little echoey on my part.
No, we hear you perfectly on this side.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ms. McFarlane. My mic dropped a little bit, but thank you for having me. And I just wanted to really jump in with Mr. King. Something you said is what I really go by as a teacher when you said, if I'm going through it, someone else is going through it too. Right now, I'm in the middle of a summer camp working with some writing with students. And I believe if I can get my kids writing and telling their stories, that's going to really take them places. And so that just really struck me as you said that, because that's something I'm really working on right now, getting them to see authors that are already existing, but realizing that people want to hear their exact story just as it is, don't need to change anything about it, just getting them writing and getting that out there. So that was my first connection. Sorry, I missed what you said to say.
What's your own background? How did you come to teaching? And what's your passion as a teacher?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm into my 11th year now as a teacher, and I feel like I'm really kind of getting a groove of how I want things, what I want the kids to come away with in terms of their perseverance and their confidence in themselves, and what the value they already have.
How old are your kids? How old are your students?
4th grade. So that's kind of the sweet spot for me. I started in 5th and kind of did a couple looping years of 1st and 2nd. And now with 4th, I feel like it's a really powerful year to kind of inspire and kind of get some passion under their belts. They soak up Black history, like Marcus Garvey. Thank you for mentioning him. He's kind of an idol in our circles. And we spent a lot of time working with the Black Panthers, and they can't get enough of it. And so my passion is really showing them themselves, showing them how special they are already. And especially lifting up this North Minneapolis community. I've had families for a lot of years now, and really just building on each sibling as I keep getting more and more siblings. But really passionate about showing them themselves and really, really making sure they see how great they already are. And like I said, this camp I'm doing right now is based on Goldie Muhammad's work, and she believes in really lifting up Black students to know their identity. She has these 5 pursuits: identity, skill development, intellectualism, criticality, and joy. And so this camp is based on how do we get all those things into our Black and brown students. And so we're doing a lot of writing, a lot of boxing, a lot of exercising. And so really just lifting them up is kind of my passion. I also really am passionate about that clip of that woman talking about trauma was really inspiring too. I'm interested in getting them to tell their stories, but also in kind of regulating their nervous system so they can tell their story. So kind of really working on a lot of deep breathing, a lot of meditating as much as I can with them.
Alvin, jump in whenever you want to. We're doing this together, and Brenda also. Let me tell you guys that Brenda and I were in kindergarten together. So school means a lot. We both are in a classroom from kindergarten and across the hall from each other, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th grade through 7th grade, I think. So we go back a long ways, and we've reconnected in our 70s and are writing together now. So it's a wonderful thing to put the perspective of our dreams at the age of 4, of 5, to reflect on that and sort of use that as a lens for looking at where we've come, and also to, in a sense, guide where we still must go. Alvin, jump in. Brenda, jump in. Go ahead.
Well, I first of all, Miss Oakes, thanks for giving me credit for saying that. But I got chills when you said it, because that is true. If I've gone through it, then somebody else has. But when you talked about the program that you have and how you're getting the students to come into who they are through writing, it took me back to a show that we just had. I was in New York for my birthday this year. I went to a play on Broadway called What the End Will Be. And I didn't know that I was going to, first of all, the play was incredible, but the writer, I didn't think I was going to meet him, but I met this 30-year-old writer who I brought on the show. And I do have a clip of him talking, and I just think that it would be inspiring to hear what he had to say, because he talked about in the interview how he was as a young writer. And what you said, Ms. Oakes, spoke to some of the things that he said during our interview with him.
To some of the great universities. You went to Morehouse, Spelman, and Yale, 3 very different educational facilities and learning experiences. How did they all shape you and your writing?
I think it's incredible. I didn't have to negotiate the white gaze until I was an adult. I just didn't. I grew up in Memphis, and I went to Black schools, and then I went to the AUC, and that's a place where I think Black kids are encouraged to learn and grow and be as big as possible. I also went to Emory little while. And then when I went there, I was like the token Black guy in a way that just felt like, oh, whatever he says goes. Like, I'm so happy, It was like they treated me like a little bit like the inner city kid, but it was like fine. And then I got to Yale, which is, the ivory tower, this kind of colossal place of history and legacy and excellence. And I realized just how out of touch white people were, that they just had no clue. One of my favorite quotes is Michelle Obama when she was wrapping up her time in the White House, and she was just like, guys, they're not that smart. They're just not that smart. And I think being in environments where I got to be my full self and then go into Yale and learn how to code switch and learn how to, put on whatever that thing is that we have to do. I got to really understand that it's not about them. And I think that that's something that a lot of my peers are still struggling with, honestly. It's just like trying to explain themselves to white people or trying to negotiate the white gaze or prove their worth to these white gatekeepers. And I was just fortunate enough that I understood really early on that my stories are for my people. And if anybody else gets it, then that's wonderful. And if they don't, well, I hope you enjoy spending a little bit of time in this McMansion that was beautifully designed by Reed. Go home, learn something.
Wow.
I thought that
Sorry.
you spoke to that for me, Miss Oaks. So and while your kid, I think it was something that you could hear as you go through your program that could be further instilled in your children, that piece. So thank you for indulging me in that.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll keep up with that. Thank you.
Ruth Ann, you're holding up the book. How you doing, Ruth Ann?
Just supporting. I was just at Goldie's conference last week, and it's all about the joy. And I feel like I'm a kindergarten teacher, and I really feel that my purpose is to make sure that there is joy in my classroom. Joy is celebrating who each child is, and for them to feel the joy, and then of course joy in learning. So
the challenge, the book, the title is so appropriate, but also alarming, because what comes to mind is the lack of cultivation of genius. For it to be said makes you think, oh, why wasn't this said before? Now, Brenda, jump in here. I think we believe that we were properly cultivated and properly developed because we had teachers that lived in our neighborhood, up the street, around the corner, went to church with us, hung out with our parents, afternoon teas and neighborhood block clubs. But that changed with integration, right? And so, and I think that our teachers did reach out and reach into us, cultivating genius, but I think we've lost that. So that title is so important, Ruth. So how do you do that in your classroom?
Well, I'm not really sure what the mystery stew is that I do that makes everybody feel good. I look at every child as if this was my grandchild. I used to say child, but now I'm that age that I can say, this was my grandchild. What would I want the teacher saying or doing with this child? And if I can't justify what I'm doing, then I change it. Yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, if there's a big window and I'm doing this in front of God and everybody, I want everybody going, yep, you're doing good with these kids, and these kids are responding in a great way.
And you saying you want to be transparent and you want to deliver on the promise. You understand that what you're doing must be looked at and must be examined, and you want to be accountable.
And you have to truly believe in your heart, which I do, that every child of all my little kings and queens are genius. My job is just to spade around them and keep them in the sunlight and fresh water every day, and just grow this little garden of cultivating genius. They're amazing. And if you don't recognize genius, I'm not sure you should be in the classroom.
And then when you get to be our age, 70 years later, you will remember teachers like you that talked about children being gardens and they needed nourishment and they needed sunlight and they needed hugs sometimes because they'd never seen it. And Al and I can remember our teachers at DA Homes.
Yep.
We can remember our principal. They didn't have book bags. We had satchels. And George Perry would holler out, he'd be all the way down by the gym and he'd say, Brenda Lyle, do you have a book in that satchel? Yes. You know, because we would know that if that was not the case, our parents would get a phone call. You better, you know, and we didn't have a library. We just had a small library because we couldn't go to the public library. So we were taught by discarded National Geographics and all of the things that our teacher, Fern Webster, would create herself. And we all came out like, you know, it wasn't a question about high expectations. We were expected to do what our parents didn't have an opportunity to do, most of them. You know, they were blue collar workers. So we love it. We just, those memories, we just hold on to. And Kelsey, I wanted to tell you, I have a group of, I'm a writer. Of course, my boss is right above you. But I'm a retired educator, 37 years. And I have a group of kids who decided they were going to write a screenplay. So they're flushing out the screenplay. And every Saturday morning, they bring in their McDonald's bags and they're talking about beginning, middle, and end. And just think about all of the things that they are learning and the camaraderie they have with their peers. It's beautiful. And I just might, and Lucy Lane, is it Lucy Lane is a school? That leadership has to be pretty powerful. All of you are rolling out with these awards, I think, but the other ones too. I think it's great. And teachers need to be applauded. I don't know if I'd be in a classroom right now today, but then, you know, 30 years ago, I probably would have taken on the challenge too. So anyway, congratulations.
Kelsey, you're going to say something?
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Lyle-Gray. That's really.
And then go to Haley after that. Yeah.
I'm making some connections. So Mari Friesleben was our principal here, and she's who I really, really admire. And I'm kind of connecting to you, Mr. King, that author talking about like white people aren't that smart. Like like what happened after integration, and kind of like she kind of one of my first years of teaching, she opened up. She was like, we were fine before, you know, like we had our black teachers and black kids. We were great. You know, like we don't need you, you know, like, and that has always really stuck with me of like, I have to fight to teach black kids. It's not just you know, I don't get to just do it. Like it takes more work for me as a white person coming in to do the honor of teaching black kids, you know, and I think there are like, you know, like as much as like I want to present in a positive way, like there's a lot of teachers that do steal that joy. Like there's a reason that book has to be written. And like that author said, the book Cultivation, like Goldie Muhammad, like she has to really dumb it down for some of us, you know, like to really, and you know, and then another.
She is deep.
Yeah, it's yeah, and I'm also connecting to another to Innocent Classroom. Alex Pate does Innocent Classroom, and sometimes in his seminars, I feel like he's almost like, how can I make this more simple for you? You know, in terms of lifting up our black and brown kids. But so a lot of connections here, and the students in their writing, like we bought the notebooks, we bought them are kind of thin ones, and it was a goal of kind of filling it up. Like you can fill it with anything. Spelling doesn't matter, you know, poetry doesn't, you know, however, writing your name over and over, you know, we really tried to push just the freedom of writing. And one of our co-teachers, Miss Kim Ambers, her daughter is a writer at St. Thomas, and she came in and kind of, they spoke to getting through really hard times in life, and writing saved their lives. Miss Kim was saying, you know, I couldn't speak, I couldn't do it. And writing was the thing that really, she said, you know, really kept her alive in some really challenging scenarios. So a lot of
have you shown freedom writers to your kids?
No, we haven't, but that's a great idea.
Yeah. that would really be an inspiration for them, because some of those kids came from very tough backgrounds. And that book that they came out with was just wonderful. And the movie was, when I wrote about it, one of my favorites is Stand and Deliver. And there wasn't a classroom that I had that I did not talk about Jaime Escalante. And, and video for Black kids, visual is really good. I taught apartheid with Cry Freedom, and I talked about Rwanda and the genocide by showing Hotel Rwanda. So, and they wrote about it. It has to come out of their hearts, and especially now they've been through so much trauma.
I want to jump in just really quickly and say where Goldie, Dr. Muhammad, steps us through. Another great resource is Dr. Bettina Love, and she tells it like it is, and she, puts it right out there. And sorry, white people, catch on, figure it out, because she doesn't have time. She doesn't have time for the kindness that Goldie does to walk us through it. But I've gotten a lot of great insights from listening to Dr. Love and reading her books. It's a challenge, because when my parents and my little people come in and see this white face, I don't want them to think that they're going to get what other white faces have given them.
And that's a reality.
That is a reality.
That is true.
Let's bring Haley in, and then Alvin, you come back and make your comments. Haley, good afternoon. Congratulations.
Hi, thank you.
And thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Did I say your name properly? I said Haley. Is that
Haley?
right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Great. Okay.
What Ruth just said about having to prove myself as a teacher, it just happened last year. I had a family come in who had one of the other second grade teachers for older children, and they were really upset when they found out that I was going to be the teacher for their son. But through the year we worked on some trust issues, and he was one of my ones who is the reason I'm here today. He made amazing growth.
Well, congratulate you.
Thank you. It wasn't easy.
Well, I wanted to, and hopefully not go off the path. First of all, let me congratulate every educator on this panel, because what teachers go through these days, what I see now, teachers going through, like it was said earlier by Brenda. Sorry, I call you by your first name, Brenda.
That's fine. I'm fine.
And I'm looking at the screen. But I didn't go through that when I went through high school. But I do want to pose this question to the teachers. Because I live in an area where there's like 2 high schools and a junior high school that I pass to go to my metro station, I have witnessed some things that I don't know how teachers respond to it, but I smell weed on kids going to school.
Of course
and
you
my thought was, how do teachers deal with that kind of, I can't even comprehend them walking into a class and you have to deal with that and teach your class. I don't, and I know if you teach a lower grade, I don't see that, but I'm talking about junior high school kids. I see it, and I'm mind boggled by it. And I've been wanting to ask an educator, how do you deal with that these days?
It was not something that I dealt with my students, but backpacks, clothing will come to school smelling like weed or smelling like smoke. And there's just like, what am I going to do about it? Like, there's nothing I can do about it except love on the kid for the 6-7 hours that I have them and give them the safest, most comfortable space where they know that even if I'm holding them accountable for something, they know that at the end of the day, they're going to get a hug from me. They're going to get an I love you and I can't wait to see you tomorrow.
But Haley, can I ask you, is there any professional development, any type of training that helps teachers to deal with issues like this and still be expected to have high test scores and children being happy-go-lucky. It's not that type of ambiance in our schools anymore. So how are you prepared for this, especially at the beginning? I used to do professional development, and I would hear teachers say, we've had enough of it. I've been here 15 or 20 years. I know what I'm doing. Well, knowing what you're doing 15 years ago has nothing to do with post-COVID, post-racial unrest, and now the political front. Because one of our big moves, and Alvin, I hope Bosch and you really hammer down on he said on voting. We've got to, because voting, because if we don't hammer that and we lose both the Senate and the House, if you think schools are bad today and funding is bad today, just wait. So we owe it to our children to get out here and vote. And also speaking up about training, about, just the books that Ms. Martin just mentioned. I was writing down, there's a lot out there, but all of us don't have time to sit and read and take notes and try to apply it to our kids because they're going through so much. But one thing that we knew, our teachers took no excuses. If we didn't feel good, then stay at home and get better. But don't come and take it out on the other kids and not do what you were expected to do. Now kids are like, I don't know where responsibility went. So, but we don't stop fighting for our babies. They deserve our hugs.
Ruth, go ahead.
And they deserve our love.
I think that to begin with, you need to be an empathetic person.
Yep.
And you need to build empathy as fast as you can with your littles. I look at my job as of course, I feel like my job is the most important of all the teaching jobs that are out there, because I'm building that beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And if they've got a strong beginning, and if
we won't forget Vern Webster. And we were 5 years old, and we were sitting on the floor because they had burned our elementary school down, white flight. So we don't forget her. And she loved to hug, and we loved her hugs.
I'm moving into year number 38.
Oh my goodness! Congratulations! Well, I had 37, so.
But it is a little eye-opening when one of my former students comes in with their child or grandchild.
I know. Tell me about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I do. I think that building the relationship with the family, and I don't care what you smell like. Mm-hmm. I need a relationship with you. And one thing that came out of COVID was that my parents and I are tighter than tight. They saw how I ran my classroom in an online way. They heard enough of my personality and how I dealt with things that popped up and popped down online that there was a trust that was built in there. So if anybody wants to look for one good thing that came out of COVID, is we really had a really close relationship.
And that's an important word. It's the kids trusting.
Yeah.
That they want to come to school and that they trust you to have their interest at heart. Yeah, and that's really what's important.
And with the parents too.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because, if you're a parent, you understand. And my children went to white schools and I had to fight the racism, the Klan, bringing in the Department of Justice.
Well, I love when parents say, we can call Miss Martin.
Mm-hmm.
They're at home on the weekend and they're struggling with should I call Miss Martin? No, don't call Miss Martin.
But see, that's the reason why you gotten this award too. People recognize the fact of your heart
and
and
high
loving
standards.
those kids.
And high standards.
Jump in, Kelsey. Go ahead. Just jump
Thank
right
you. Thanks, Mr. King. I was just thinking about your question, and right now it does feel like a very odd time in education, in both more freedom to kind of push like what we really want, but also some fear of like it's not the same right now. You know, like the kids are not okay. You know, it's not. They're not. There's a lot going on right now, and so your question is one I have all the time. In kind of like, am I going to teach forever? Am I doing the right thing? Because they're coming with so much stuff, but on the good days, I'm looking at a lot of freedom to really, like this Genius and Joy camp. You know, there is new freedom now that we didn't have before COVID. And like you said, Ms. Martin, the online did offer a lot more connection with families, which was great. But what they come with, sometimes you're just stuck and you just kind of have to stop. You know, Deshaun Hill passed away and we're all sitting there trying to, we're all depressed together, trying to figure out how do you deal with this loss together. So yeah, it's tricky right now. I find that a lot. And then I'm just like, I don't know how we're going to do this. It's a lot.
Well, you need more awards.
Push you guys all together down the same track that I was bringing to Brother Alvin B. King. And so I've had educators on this program before, maybe like university presidents. And I said, if education is occurring, one of the products of it might be the awareness of the student, of the hypocrisy of the institution that is providing the education, that rather than promoting and teaching self-realization and teaching to the value of the human being's existence and potential, the institutions tend to simply reinforce, bind, create habits. I guess it's called socialization. There's value in that. But if you educate people to question the social order, that the real education means the eventual dismantling of the institution itself.
The system.
And how does a teacher, how do teachers, individuals, not institutions, see themselves in shepherding the evolution, if the evolution at some point in time also means the dismantling of the institution that they're part of? I don't know if that's...
No, I get you.
Yeah.
Because my littles, even though they're 5 years old, I tell them it is so important that we do this work. It is so important that you know who you are, that your voice is heard, that you question things that don't feel right to you, because you are going to be in charge and you are going to be making the decisions when you're older. So you need all this good information now, and you need to be your super smart little self, because when Miss Martin is old and gray and sitting in a rocking chair, I want this world to be a great place because you're in charge.
Got it. Kelsey, what do you think?
She's on mute. Kelsey.
Oh, sorry. 1 sec. I'm kind of processing. Sorry. 1 sec. Go ahead, Peterson. What do you got?
Alvin, jump back in, and Haley, jump back.
What was coming up for me is that, first of all, I don't have any children, but I am the world's best gunkle. And I know all my nieces and nephews will tell you he is the best gunkle in the world. And what you just said about, instilling in those children, Ruth, you said, letting them know that their voice matters. And when they see something, they have to say it. To be, a lot of people get on kids for talking too much or whatever. It's when you tell them to stop talking is really the problem. I think that's where problem seeps in. And I felt what you said with that, because I haven't seen one of my nephews in 2 years because of COVID. And so that's one of the things that I try to instill in him. So you're going to make me drive to Delaware very soon. And I don't.
You'll love that. You'll
One
love
of
that.
the things that I always say to my students, because you get this in second grade a lot, is, Miss Peterson, can I tell you something? Miss Peterson, can I tell you this? Can I do this? My answer to them is always. You can always tell me something. You can always show me something, even if it's the millionth time and I'm super frustrated. My first response is always, because I'm always going to be the person that you can come and talk to or show
And
anything to.
trust.
Yep,
Trust.
100%.
How do white teachers explain slavery to black children?
Wow.
At the end, I have a very honest conversation with my students. It happens often that my students are like, wait, that's not fair. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. The black people were enslaved. The white people thought that they could own black people. And it just leads to deeper conversations. I don't hide any truths when questions are asked. I give information at a level that can be understood, because 7-year-olds are humans, and 7-year-olds deserve to have answers to questions instead of, oh, well, you'll learn about it when you get older. They get the truth at the level that they can get it.
I kind of do my best to trace how it's still affecting right now, how it's like so easy to see it now. I really, it's a fine line between like making them sad about everything, but like, and I preface it, I'm like, we talk about a lot of, and like bad things, and then celebrate joy too. We always try and like, okay, we talked so much about, like housing, that, and we talk about the neighborhood and everything that's stacked against them and all the stuff that it's still literally all the time everywhere, so as they get to be fourth grade, I'm hoping like the voting thing, and hoping like not to discourage them, but to show them it's still everywhere, and like how to trace it, and how to like voting is one way we can kind of work through it a little bit, and like, yeah, really honest, really owning up to everything and tracing its lineage, and then at the same time making sure that those lessons then include some uplifting things that go with it as well, to kind of try to keep the joy with it, but yeah, making sure, holding myself accountable all the time. I mean, we like, real talk, we talk about race every day, like it's really important to me and to them. Like I believe it just has to be all the time. Like they just have to know, they got to know what they're up against and how they're going to navigate around it, and a lot of the stuff that author said, I want them to really develop their view of like how they're going to navigate white supremacy now,
5-year-olds, we touch on slavery in the fairness, not fairness realm. But reading a book right now by Dr. Mohammed Khalifa of culturally responsive school leadership. And he says there is more to Black people than movie stars, sports heroes, and slavery. I want you to go back. I want you to go back. So that's where my focus is going to be. I want them to know where they came from and the mighty culture. I mean, it was the dominant culture of the whole world. It's the birthplace of everything. But I don't avoid it. But we love talking about things that are fair and not fair in kindergarten. It's like, oh my goodness. Not in relation so much to the people's color, but she had blue dice yesterday, and now she has the blue dice again. That's not fair. So they have a very good sense of what's right, what's wrong. So when we move into what's right and what's wrong with relationships and people's colors, they get it. It's a small bite, but it's a bite.
Listen, we're out of time. This has been a wonderful conversation. I applaud you. I thank you and celebrate you. Thank you for the award you've gotten for the work that you do. What comes to mind in my closing thought is one of the many books I'm reading by Ikwe Arma, and he talks about teaching children hieroglyphic, ancient Egyptian language. And in one of the narratives, the stories, an educator is teaching his child or grandchild how to do calligraphy or hieroglyphic writing. And the parent is a product of the modern institutional education system and is wary of imparting this special knowledge, ancient knowledge of glyphs and to a child. And the parent says, I've heard that when people learn that, they go crazy, right? And so one of the reasons people are kept from deep study, deep examination, it's a shorthand way to obfuscate, I can't say the word anyway, but anyway, to hide, to obscure things. And so what if we figured out how to trust children to read not only English, but hieroglyphic, Yoruba, French, Spanish, Portuguese, many languages. Do humans have that capability? Number one, I don't know the answer, but I think that we probably do. It's a question of what you put time in, what you learn, what you know is what you spend time attempting to learn and know. So I leave it with that. Wouldn't it be great if Ruth, you said go way back, if you went back before the patriarchy, back before there were kings and queens, back before there were nation states, back before there were armies, back to a place and a time where people practice an art of collaboration, of knowledge growing, of innovation, of sharing, and of spreading knowledge as the order of the day, spreading it throughout the realm of human beings. Well, end of the day for me right now, Brother Alvin B. King, thank you for being here, man. Great conversation. Brenda, as always.
Thank you.
And Haley, Kelsey, Ruth Ann.
I have one question.
Go.
When can you come to my classroom?
Well, I can be there virtually anytime. I'd be glad to be there. And we'll figure out maybe next year sometime to come there. I'd love to. But I think having conversations like this is important. And I treasure you for being a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everybody.